Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Rad Rides. This is Hassan Shirazi. I have another special episode for you today. I am going to be talking about a very special American classic car. This is a 1957 Ford Thunderbird. This car is what started it all for Ford in the sports car category, and it was basically Ford's answer to Chevrolet Corvette. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about this beautiful and classic 57 Ford Thunderbird. This is a very iconic sports classic car that we had an opportunity given to us by the owner and to represent for you in our channel. As you are aware, we recently did another American classic car, a 1971 Chevrolet El Camino. So make sure to click on the link on the top right to see the video of that. But this car is the oldest car that we are honored to represent in our channel. And today we're going to tell you a little bit about how Ford came about making the Thunderbird, a little bit about the design of the car, the engine, wheel, suspension, and typical stuff that we do before we take a little drive on this beautiful classic American car. If you're new to this channel, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. That's one of the ways that gets our channel growing, and I truly hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this 1957 Ford Thunderbird, but before doing so, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of Ford and how they came to make this Thunderbird. Ford saw that one of their main competitors, Chevrolet, had introduced the Corvette in 1953. Ford didn't have an answer for that. To make the matters worse, the president of Ford, Henry Ford, nicknamed Hank the Deuce, had actually went to Paris Auto Show and he had met Enzo Ferrari. Now, Enzo Ferrari had given Henry Ford a gift, which was a Ferrari 212 Barchetta. And when Henry Ford drove that car, he told his designers, I want a car just like that. So Henry Ford's production manager actually told him that there is a car already designed by one of their lead designer named Frank Hershey that is Ford's answer to Chevrolet Corvette. So Ford needed a name for the sports car and they threw a contest, and Alden Gibbardson was the person that came up with the name Thunderbird. So Ford rushed this project so fast that in February of 1954, it was debuted to the public in the Detroit Auto Show, and you could officially get this car at the end of 1954 as a 1955 model. Now, the price of this car at the time was about $3,000. It featured the fiberglass removable hardtop with a folding convertible top. It had electric seats. It also had this really nifty feature that the sound of your stereo system would adjust with the speed of the car. So people were lining up out of Ford showrooms trying to get one of these cars. And this car in 1955 sold 16,200 some units compared to Corvette's 700 units. So this car outsold Corvette 23-1. A couple of other features of this car were telescopic steering wheel and the Town and Country radio system, which would actually help you find the next radio channel, and this was very revolutionary and very ahead of its time. Now, the first generation of Ford Thunderbird was built until 1957, but in all totality, there is 11 generations of Ford Thunderbird that ran from 55 all the way to 1997. Then they restarted production from 2002 all the way to 2005. And the 2002 to 2005 model was actually a retro style based on this car. All right, moving on and talking about the engine of this 57 Ford Thunderbird. When Ford introduced the Thunderbird in 1955, you had two engine choices. You had the 289 Y-block 4.8 liter V8 borrowed from Mercury that was making about 193 horsepower. Then you also had a more powerful choice of an engine, which was the 312 cubic inch Y-block V8 5.1 liter, and that was making 245 horsepower, as you see in this case. Now, there is a more powerful version of the V8 that had a Paxton supercharger, and that was making about 300 horsepower, and it was a dual quad, and that was an option, I believe, in 1957 that you could get. This car also featured power brakes and power steering, and that was really ahead of its time. Now, all of the power was put down to the ground by either a 2-speed automatic transmission or a 3-speed manual transmission, and this car has the automatic transmission. The weight of this car is about 3,100 pounds. Moving on, talk about the wheels and brakes of this car. The owner of this car has updated the tires. These are the radials with the white wall on the outside, and they're 7.5 by 14s. As far as the braking on this car, it is so old that it has 4-wheel drum system. It doesn't have disc brakes in the front and in the rear. It doesn't even have the disc brakes in the front and drum brakes in the back. It just has 4-wheel drums. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit more about the design of this 1957 Ford Thunderbird. Very beautiful and nice and simple, and really long hood that you see on this car with this functional hood scoop that it can suction in some air to cool down this big V8 that it has. We're coming down here now, we see the Thunderbird logo right here. It says Thunderbird. Obviously it's an outline of a bird, and then the word Ford. Coming to the front, you see single circular headlights, and you see a nice large grille to suction in some air to cool down this big V8. You got the side markers right here on the side of the front bumper. Another one right here. I like how you have this nice protrusion. It reminds you of it being kind of like a futuristic, like a spaceship, or like a little missile. Really nice side profile that you see on this Ford Thunderbird. You have the word Thunderbird written in cursive. Then you have some chrome accents. This is very nice feature that you see on this car. These are actually side vents that you can manually open up, and it can take some air as you're driving your car and take it from outside to inside, so you can cool you down, especially on a nice hot day. Really like the side mirrors and how you see this thing kind of like a bullet or the nose of an airplane. So definitely this car was inspired by design of an airplane. Really like this fender skirts that you see on this car, and you definitely don't see it on cars nowadays. It's a unique feature for this car and some of the cars that were from this era. Then we obviously have the antenna going towards the back of a car. Really like this tail fins that you see on this car. Very nice, subtle. Really like the design of the tail light with the reverse light coming right in the center of it. This is protruded out. You definitely don't see that nowadays. And really love how the exhaust comes out through the bumper. This feature was introduced in 1957, and it wasn't available in the 56 or 55 models. Coming to the trunk, again, you have the Thunderbird logo. All right, let's take a quick look at the trunk of this car. This is where you have your spare tire. I like how it's got a little mount, and then you just put it on there. And it actually has a pretty roomy trunk, so you can definitely put a couple of suitcases in here if you want to go on a little weekend getaway. So that is pretty nice and unique. I love how the exhaust is coming through the back of this bumper. This makes it very, very sleek, very clean design. Let's talk a little bit more about the interior of this 57 Ford Thunderbird. It's just absolutely amazing, elegant, luxurious for its time, and definitely well ahead of its time. A couple of features that I mentioned earlier. It had a town and country radio option. Also, one thing that it is very unique to this car is the power seats. Look at this. This is a 4-way power seat, and it even writes on top of it. And this car also features telescopic steering wheel. I'm going to push it in and out for you. Let's talk a little bit more about the gauges of this car. And right in the center, you see the so-called 150 miles per hour speedometer. Then on the left, you have your fuel gauge. On the bottom left, you also have your tachometer. Top right, you have your coolant temperature, and you actually have a clock as well. Check out the glove box of this 57 Thunderbird. It's actually kind of melded into the rest of the dashboard, and you don't even see it, but that's how it is. One neat thing about this car is for the climate control, if you want to turn on the climate control for the passenger, you just bring the little knob right to the left side. And if you want to turn on the climate control for the driver, you have your own individual knob right here. You have your cigarette lighter right here, and a common thing in older cars was definitely the ashtray. You don't see that in too many of the newer cars. And this is where the light is when you open up the doors. This is pretty neat. I like how they put it right here. And I really, really love this curved front windshield that you see on this car. It's so nice, and I don't even want to know the price or even if anybody can replace this curved front windshield. It is so unique, so nice, and so beautifully sculpted. It's one piece. I don't know how they did it back in the 50s. Super nice and clean and small and cute little mirror right here. One neat feature about this car is it has these side windows that if you have them in this position, not a lot of air comes in the car. Now, if you have it like this, more air comes in the cars. Doors on this car, first of all, they are solid metal. They are heavy. These things are heavy. Look how thick they are. I already talked about the four-way adjustable seats. This is how you would open up the door. And then obviously you have the manual up and down knob to turn up and down your window. And this is your handbrake. And then this is how you get the hood open. This is where the convertible top is, right here.
Back behind the seat.
Wow, this is so nice. Beautiful. All right, we're in this 1957 Ford Thunderbird, and this is the owner, and Todd right here. He's gonna tell us a little bit about this Ford Thunderbird and how it is to drive this beautiful and classic American car. Go ahead, Todd.
Well, this is Isan said it's a 1957 Ford Thunderbird, and it's been a family car for many years. It belonged to my dad, and my dad's still alive, but the maintenance on the car is a little bit much for him, and so he's passed it on to me to drive for a while. And it's just a beauty. You drive it with the top down. It's got a convertible top that folds behind the back seat, but I never use it. If it's the top's got to be up, it's not going out. And we just taking it for a drive here. The car looks great. Get a lot of comments on it, but it's not like a new car. If you've driven a new car, then you drive one of these. It's kind of amazing that at some point this was a state-of-the-art vehicle, because it's definitely a lot different. You feel a lot more of the road. It's harder to turn. You can't do U-turns. You got to do K-turns if you remember those from your driving school days.
I wouldn't know that, Todd.
It does have power steering and power brakes though, so that helps a little bit. And yeah, it's got a big V8, and it's a 312. They call it a police interceptor. So it doesn't get very good gas mileage. but it looks good. It's fun to drive, and love taking the dog out, and my son and wife out. We go for drives in it on the weekends, and it's really fun.
We're driving on PCH. As Todd mentioned, it's a beautiful sunny day in Southern California. And T-Bird was definitely meant for this type of weather. Anything else you want to add, Todd? Since you've owned this car, if this car has been in your family for many, many, many years, was it your dad? Did your dad originally buy this car, Todd?
No, my dad bought it in the 70s.
Okay.
The very first car that I had was a 57 Thunderbird. It was a project car that my dad got. My dad was in the car business, and we fixed that up and got all done. My dad says, "Well, you did all the work on it. What color do you want to paint it?" I said, "Well, let's paint it orange, Dad." So we painted it Hugger orange, which was a Chevrolet color, but it was a bright orange car, and I drove that for many, many years. And then my sister got old enough to drive, she drove it. And once I went off to school, my dad decided he wanted something a little bit more traditional. So we've got the classic black and white Thunderbird now.
Wow, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Put some radial tires on there. They still have the big iconic white sidewalls,
right?
But radial tires, so it drives a little little bit better. Got a big steering wheel on here if you notice, and it's a little bit harder to do turns and things because it doesn't have a very good turning radius, but the big wheel helps it a little bit. Takes up a lot of space in the interior. A little harder to get in and out of, but it's got that telescoping wheel that
I saw that, yeah.
Talked about.
Oh my God, that is so nice. Guys, this is a lifetime opportunity, definitely for me.
Doesn't stop as sharp as other cars do. They've got a lot of weight behind it, and of course everything is improved through the years. So modern technology is a lot better than this technology, but kind of hard to beat the look.
That is true. I agree. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of Rad Rides covering this beautiful 1957 Ford Thunderbird. We really had fun covering this vehicle. They don't make cars like this anymore. This is truly an American classic car and a car that has significance in automotive history. We really had fun covering this vehicle. Special thanks goes to the owner of this car for letting us showcase his beautiful and classic Thunderbird. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, where we showcase you another car that has significance in automotive history, just like this beautiful T-Bird does. Until next time, bye-bye.